You have been fed a poison since the day you were born. Your parents, your teachers, your religious leaders, they all whispered the same sweet, paralyzing lie into your ear, that the good guy wins in the end. They told you that if you turn the other cheek, if you play fair, and if you operate with honor, the universe will balance the scales and reward you. Look around you. Look at the people who actually run this world. Look at the CEOs, the politicians, the conquerors of history. Do you see kindness? Or do you see a graveyard of good men buried beneath the foundations of their empires? The truth is repulsive, but you must swallow it if you want to survive. Virtue is not a shield, it is a target. In the real world, the one governed not by fairy tales but by raw human nature, power does not respond to mercy. It responds only to one thing: cruelty. But I am not talking about the clumsy, emotional violence of a thug. That is beneath you. I am talking about the surgical application of pain. I am talking about the philosophy of the Florentine diplomat, Niccolò Machiavelli, who understood 500 years ago what you are too scared to admit today, that it is far safer to be feared than loved. There is a methodology to this. A system that the elites use to bypass the line, seize control, and force the world to bend the knee. It feels like cheating because it violates every rule you were taught in kindergarten. But here is the secret. Those rules were written by the masters to keep the servants in line. I am going to give you the 5 principles of Machiavellian dominance. These are the gears of the machine. And I must warn you, the 4th principle is so effective, so devastatingly simple, that most people are too weak to use it. It requires you to kill the part of yourself that seeks approval. But if you can stomach it, you will never be a victim again. To understand the first step, you must understand the nature of the beast. You must become the centaur, half man, half beast. You cannot simply be a lion, relying on brute force, because you will step into traps. You cannot simply be a fox, relying on wit, because the wolves will eat you. You must be both. This brings us to the first principle, the simulation of virtue. Machiavelli wrote that a prince does not need to have all the good qualities: mercy, faith, integrity, humanity, and religion, but he must absolutely appear to have them. In fact, having them is dangerous. If you are truly merciful, you will hesitate when it is time to strike. If you are truly honest, you will reveal your hand to your enemies. But if you appear merciful while being ruthless, you gain the trust of the sheep while you sharpen the knife. This is psychological camouflage. You must craft a persona so impeccable, so seemingly aligned with the moral zeitgeist of your era, that no one suspects the calculation behind your eyes. When you smile, it must reach your eyes, even if you are planning their removal. Why does this work? Because men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. Everyone can see what you appear to be. Few really know what you are, and those few dare not oppose the opinion of the many who have the majesty of the state to defend them. You must weaponize their own biases against them. They want to believe you are good because it makes them feel safe. Your goodness is the anesthesia you administer before the surgery. Once they trust you, once you have walked among them as a friend, you activate the second principle, the economy of violence. This is where the amateur fails. The amateur tyrant is cruel all the time. He nags, he bullies. He creates a constant hum of misery. This is a mistake. Constant cruelty creates hatred, and hatred breeds rebellion. Machiavelli teaches that injuries should be done altogether, so that being less tasted, they will give less offense. If you must take power, if you must fire a rival, if you must destroy a reputation to save your own, you do it instantly. You do it massively. You do it so completely that the victim cannot recover to take revenge. Think of it like a band-aid, but on a geopolitical scale. If you inflict pain slowly, day by day, the resentment builds. But if you strike with overwhelming force, a shock and awe of psychological dominance, the human brain switches from anger to survival mode. They don't hate you, they fear you. And in that fear, they find a strange sort of comfort. They respect the magnitude of the power that crushed them. You must never wound an enemy. You either caress him or you annihilate him. Because if you wound him, he will recover and seek revenge. If you annihilate him, professionally, socially, or hierarchically, he can do nothing. This sounds cold. It is. But is it not colder to let a conflict drag on for years, bleeding both sides dry, simply because you lack the stomach to end it in one afternoon? Now that you have established dominance, you must maintain it. This leads to the third principle, the bond of obligation. You might think that doing favors for people makes them loyal. You are wrong. Human nature is ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, and covetous. As long as you succeed, they are yours entirely. They will offer you their blood, property, life, and children when the need is far distant. But when the need approaches, they revolt. Friendships that are obtained by payments, and not by greatness or nobility of mind, may indeed be earned, but they are not secured, and in time of need cannot be relied upon. So, how do you bind them? Not by what you give them, but by what you hold back. You must create a dependency. The most powerful position is not the one who gives everything, but the one who controls the supply. You must become the gatekeeper of their desires. If they want validation, you give it sparingly. If they want promotion, you dangle it just out of reach. By keeping them in a state of constant hunger, you ensure their loyalty. A dog that is fed too much sleeps. A dog that is hungry watches the door. You must structure your relationships so that their success is inextricably linked to your survival. They must protect you, not because they love you, but because if you fall, they lose everything. This is not friendship, this is strategic symbiosis. And now, we arrive at the fourth principle, the one I warned you about. The one that separates the rulers from the ruled. The strategic betrayal. Society teaches you that your word is your bond, that a promise is sacred. But a wise lord cannot, nor ought he to, keep faith when such observance may be turned against him, and when the reasons that caused him to pledge it exist no longer. Listen closely. Men are wretched creatures who would not keep their word to you, so you should not keep your word to them. This is the step that makes you flinch. You view betrayal as a moral failing. The Machiavellian views it as a tactical maneuver. There will come a moment in your ascent where an alliance you made in the past becomes a chain around your ankle. Perhaps it is a business partner who lacks your vision. Perhaps it is a mentor who wants to keep you in their shadow. The good person stays loyal and sinks with the ship. The powerful person realizes that the alliance served its purpose. The moment the cost of loyalty outweighs the benefit, the contract is null and void. But you do not just walk away. You use the intimacy of that alliance to strike. You know their weaknesses. You know their secrets. You use that proximity to launch your next phase. It feels like a violation of the soul, doesn't it? That is because you are still clinging to the idea that there is a referee keeping score. There isn't. History is not written by the men who kept their promises. It is written by the men who did what was necessary to win. If you are not willing to be the Judas when the situation demands it, you will eventually be the Jesus, sacrificed for someone else's glory. Finally, once the dust settles and you stand atop the mountain, you must enact the fifth principle, the revision of reality. Power is not just about controlling the present, it is about controlling the past. Once you have won through cruelty, through deception, through the strategic application of fear, you must scrub the blood from the floor. You must pivot back to the first principle. You become the benevolent patriarch. You rewrite the narrative of how you got there. You didn't betray your partner, you saved the company from their incompetence. You didn't crush your competition, you innovated the market. The vulgar crowd always is taken by appearances, and the world consists only of the vulgar. If you win, the means will always be judged honorable and praised by everyone. Success washes away the stain of the sin. This is why the most ruthless leaders in history are often remembered as heroes. They controlled the ink as well as the sword. You must build monuments to your own virtue. You must drown out the whispers of your cruelty with the loudness of your philanthropy. You create a new truth, and because you hold the power, that truth becomes the reality for everyone else. I can feel your resistance. I can hear the voice in the back of your head screaming that this is evil, that this is sociopathic, that you want no part of this dark world. That is a beautiful sentiment. It really is. But look at your life. Look at the times you were passed over. Look at the times you were used, discarded, and ignored. Who did that to you? Was it a monster? Or was it someone who simply understood these rules better than you did? You see, the tragedy of your life is not that you are a bad person. It is that you are a harmless person trying to play a game that has no rules. You are not to blame for the way the world is. You did not design this system where the strong eat the weak. You did not write the code of human nature that favors the fox over the lamb. You were thrown into this arena without a weapon, and then shamed for bleeding. Stop blaming yourself for your lack of power. Blame the system that taught you to be defenseless. Blame the lie that told you harmlessness was a virtue. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince to create evil men. He wrote it to wake up the sleeping ones. He wrote it because he saw that ruin is inevitable for those who try to be good in a world that is not good. You have a choice now. You can go back to sleep. You can wrap yourself in the warm blanket of moral superiority and continue to be the victim of those who are willing to do what you are not. Or you can accept the nature of the beast. You can realize that sometimes you must enter the evil when necessity commands it. The throne is empty. The crown is heavy. And it is waiting for the one hand cold enough to pick it up. Most men are too afraid to touch the crown. They prefer the safety of the gutter. If you have the stomach for power and are ready to master the game, subscribe now. And to prove you are no longer a pawn, comment the word king. The board is yours.